2002 until 2006, there were approximately 1.6 mass shootings per year. But in the years since 2006, it's actually more than tripled to 5.4 per year. To put that statistic in another way, from 1949 until 1998, there were 9 mass shootings in the US where at least 10 people were killed. So that winds up being about 1 every 5 years. In the last 20 years, meanwhile, there have been 18 shootings where at least 10 people were killed. That translates to 1 per year. 5 years per year. All it takes is just that one person to have a bad reaction to what they're playing. So the second angle that we need to take a look at this issue is what kind of role video games have played in the lives of past mass shooters. Perhaps most famously, the 2 Columbine shooters from 1999, they were both fans of the early first-person shooter Doom. The Sandy Hook Elementary shooter owned a lot of video games, as it was on record, games like Left 4 Dead, Dead Rising, Grand Theft Auto, and there was a Norwegian shooter, which I know we're focused on US shooters, but I needed to draw from as many data points that I could reasonably research. Back in 2011, he claimed that playing Call of Duty actually helped his aim and target acquisition, both skills that he used during his attack.
Now Daniel, who once embraced the world with humor and optimism, found himself mired in the helplessness of near immobility.
The doctor said, do not run, walk. He could do nothing.
Daniel was immersed in a new world of sport, one where his thirst for competition came at his fingertips.
We had video games in our home. Danny and I played Madden football all the time. We did the racing games, motocross, all those type of games, sports games, and we had no problem. We had a lot of fun with them.
What Pastor Petrick and his wife did not know was that Daniel was sinking deeply into dangerous territory, no longer amused by the rivalry of the video playing field. Daniel turned to the electronic battlefield, coveting violent war and science fiction offerings like Call of Duty and Halo. They're called first-person shooter games, where the player's role is essentially a one-man killing machine. In the case of Halo, the enemies are aliens.
The first-person shooter games are the worst, and those are the ones that are the most successful.
He would just play for hours and hours and hours, 3 days straight, and only taking a bathroom break and eating a bowl of cereal, no sleep. He changed significantly. He was very outgoing, very fun-loving, very goofy kid, and he became very secluded. And there was actually a dark look about him.
So imagine the friction created in the Petrick household when Daniel wanted to buy Halo 3.
We would not allow them for any reason whatsoever in our home.
The Petricks banned the games, a move which only fueled Daniel's deep obsession.
He snuck out his bedroom window to go buy Halo 3. He was coming back in his bedroom window, and his mom said, "What are you doing?" And then he showed her. I went out, I snuck out and bought the video game. We told him, even though you spent some $70 on this game, you're not playing it and you're not getting it back.
Mark put the game in a lockbox right next to his 9mm pistol. Secure and out of reach of his son, and out of reach of his son. Or so he thought. Coming up,
my brother's here. My brother said, don't come in, don't come in.
Virtual and real worlds collide.
He came out of his room and he just stood there and he said, "Hey, Mom and Dad, can you close your eyes? I have a surprise for you."
Officer, did my dad die?
Mom is shot and my dad is shot.
A revered Ohio pastor and his wife cut down in a hail of bullets. Susan Petrick shot dead as she sat in the family living room watching baseball. Her husband, Mark, just a few feet away, struck with a bullet to the head, clinging to life. A lone shooter had exacted vengeance on an innocent family. That family would be his own. 16-year-old Daniel Petrick shot his parents in cold blood, an act of murderous revenge when they refused to allow him to indulge a dangerous obsession. Violent first-person shooter video games. The Petricks had locked up the Halo 3 game that Daniel had purchased behind their backs. For that, they would have hell to pay.
That day when his parents took his video game, that would have been his trigger, and he decided to take action.
It's a stunning tragedy that thankfully Mark survived, a tragedy he recounts for Crime Watch Daily. It all unfolded one cool October evening in the family room of the Petrick home.
And he came out and he said to me and Sue, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I have a surprise for you. Will you close your eyes?" And I glanced over at Sue and I was like, okay, I mean, cool. We thought maybe he was going to be showing us something or apologizing about all the video game tension. He came right around here, walked up right behind me, and shot me right in the head. And then he turned, took 4 shots at his mom, and he hit her 3 times, and she died almost instantly.
Then, in a stunning, calculated act that police say was meant to frame his own father.
He had my 9mm handgun. He tried to hand it to me, I wouldn't take it. He kept trying to give me the gun and I wouldn't, then there was a knock on the door.
It is at that moment Mark's daughter Heidi and her husband arrive. Daniel tries to stop them from entering the home.
My son-in-law busts the door wide open, knocks Danny aside, sees all the blood, sees the gun sitting on a coffee table. And he just looks at Heidi and says, "Do not come in here. Call 911.
My mom is shot and my dad is shot and my brother's here. My brother said, don't come in, don't come in.
Daniel flees in the family minivan, but not before grabbing one thing, and it wasn't the murder weapon.
Guess what he took with him? The game. And guess where he was going? To his friend's house to play Halo 3.
Daniel would never get the chance to feed his post-murderous appetite to play Halo 3. He's pulled over by police and begins telling a story as surreal and unfathomable as the plots of his own violent video games. He points the finger at his own father.
My dad, he shot my mom and he shot himself. My dad shot my mom! Why would my dad shoot my mom?
I don't know, man.
Sitting in the patrol car with detectives on their way, it seems reality kicks in for Daniel, and it hits hard. He had left his father lying in a pool of blood.
Lord, please don't let my dad die. Please don't let my dad die.
But once under interrogation,
Get me through today.
Daniel cunningly still insists the tragedy was his father's own doing.
My dad was just yelling, just screaming at my mom. And then I heard my dad walk in the room, into his bedroom, and then walk back out. Oh, I ran out there, and my mom had been shot. He pointed the gun at me. And then he said he was sorry, and then he shot himself.
Eventually, Daniel's story shows signs of cracking. Daniel relents.
I just kind of snapped and did it. It wasn't something I really thought about.
But it would take a painful line of questioning, both emotionally and physically, with the recovering Mark Petrick. To confirm what cops already suspected, Daniel was the gunman.
No, after the shooting, you were in very bad shape,
Critical.
critical condition. What was the extent of your injuries?
I was shot from here down through here.
And in fact, looking at you now, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I don't know if you all can see the side of Mark's face, but it appears a part of your jaw is missing.
It was. They rebuilt my jaw. They took a bone out of my leg at Cleveland Metro, and they put it in my jaw. I have a skin graft. It's not completely,
I call this generation Generation Death. It is the most violent generation we've ever seen.